Hello, everyone. I wanted to talk to you about what it is to be awake, awake in your consciousness, in your true nature. Awake means to be fully present with life as it is, meaning that you recognize yourself as the life and awareness within everything as yourself. Awake means it's not that you're fully awake to the whole universe, or you don't sense that oneness with the whole universe. There's different degrees of being awake. Awake is the recognition of the truth of your existence as formless presence beyond the body and mind, while actually fully animating the body and mind. The body is the vehicle for consciousness that you are, and it functions through the mind. And the trouble is that consciousness can be hypnotized while it's inhabiting a body and mind, especially living in a society that programs us to be a certain way, do things a certain way, getting education in school. We're programmed to be good little boys and girls, get good grades, graduate from school, get a career, start a family, get married, live that dream life of a white picket fence and a big house. But not everyone can do that, and we have these expectations, identifications with our body and mind, and this creates some multiple voices in our heads telling us what we should do, what we shouldn't do, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And being awake gives us that authentic freedom to be aware of all these voices and conditionings that are passing through our head, and realizing that's not who we are. But we are that vast inner intelligence that inhabits the body and mind. To be fully awake is to realize that you're no longer the stories that happen in your head, and that the seeking of being awake comes to an end. And the expectations of, or looking forward to be awake, also comes to an end. Now, being awake doesn't mean you're totally free of all your conditionings and your karma. But I think karma has a bit of momentum to it, where over time it gets burnt off. As long as you don't contract back to unawareness, which is ego, which is a contracted sense of self, it's the opposite of being awake. Being awake means you're aware of your own awareness. And it's what other people call enlightenment. But don't get caught up with the words. These are just kind of pointers to the truth that I'm trying to convey. And there's different pathways, there's different techniques, there's different meditations to come to that realization of being awake. I mean, there's never a time when you're not awake. I think what happens is that our attention goes outward and we forget who we are. We live in a world where we walk around hypnotized, like in a sleep state, projecting constantly to the outside of ourselves and only just being aware of the thinking that's going on in our heads, thinking that it's really true. So being awake is reality, and thinking is not really real. It's just something that passes through and is part of. It's like we're the ocean, and the thoughts are just like waves on that ocean. So we identify with only the waves, and we're not aware that we actually are awake. What are we awake to? We are awake to a wakefulness. That's all there is. Nothing else. That's all there is. There's consciousness. Everything else is just a dream-like state when your attention goes outward. Doesn't matter how subtle, doesn't matter how high you go up in those dimensions, they're all part of mental projections of mind and thought. But when you realize that fully, you come to rest in presence. And then you can say you are actually awake. Now, for myself, I know that I am awake. But at the same time, I don't know. So there is like a half wakefulness, and also I'm aware that I'm not fully awake. But then also I've realized recently that awakefulness just unfolds, and it deepens over time and matures. And there's no end to how much you can be awake, because there's so much more awakefulness to realize, a greater and greater depths of being. So from what I've learned from some folks who are fully awake, like Vishrant and Adyashanti and Eckhart Tolle, that being fully awake is that there is no sense of I. There's no sense of that me, little me identity that they call ego, or a contracted sense of self. And being awake is a 24-hour experience. Even if the body is sleeping, their being is in full awakefulness. Now, I've only had that experience periodically, but it's actually increasing to where I'm more aware that I am awake in sleep. Sometimes aware that I'm dreaming. So what I wanted to say is that being awake is being fully present. And there's a lot of misconceptions about what this is. This is a state of not really knowing. That you are actually awake to something, because there's nobody really to know that they are awake. So being awake is just being aware of a wakefulness, being aware of awareness. And as you go up deeper and higher in your state of consciousness, you realize that this awakefulness collapses the personality or the ego that is aware of being aware of awareness, and that there's nobody to be really to be awake to. So there's almost like this pure awareness living life through the mind and body. And the mind and body is actually a part or an extension of that pure awareness. There's no sense of I, me. It's just the oneness of the universe expressing through a body and mind. I've had only glimpses of this state, but I have to be honest that I'm not fully awake, but I could say that I am aware of awareness, and I'm in a state of being awake. So thank you for listening to me. Much love. I hope this has been of great help to you, and you got to know who I am and where I'm at. Just being honest with you that, yeah, some people might think that, hey, I'm making all these videos. I'm only making videos because I feel like I want to share authentically from my own awareness. I don't know really what the reason is exactly, logical reason why I'm doing this. But this is also fairly new to me, this awake state, and making sense of a new way of being for myself, and allowing this to unfold and see what's going to happen, because I really don't know. So being awake is a new orientation, a new way of being in this world that a lot of people are waking up to right now in this world. And it's amazing to be alive. And it's such a great intention and such a great way of being, compared to the old way that I used to live, from a contracted sense of self. There's so much more love and peace emanating from my being. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Much love.